participant in the learning process of community organization, community work and social action. So from this unit, from this week 8, we have started discussing on social action. So in the same, we have to today discuss about the skill involvement or skills requirement from a social worker to be involved into social action as an important method of or auxiliary method of social work. So what are the skills actually required by the social worker? So there are certain skills that's needed by the social workers for social action. So that is professional social worker uses these skills, by combining the ethics and principles of professional social work. So skills is what is the has to be in according to the ethical aspect and the principle and then guiding principles of the social work. So then your skill is considered to be more acceptable in the professional social work field. So however, social work using social action as a method of social work requires some very specific skills. I mean, the skills which has been there as in general by the social worker as a facilitator, educator, mobilizer. So but there are some very specific skills has been required for a social worker while actually working as a social activist or working taking the social action as a method of social work. So these are like relational skills, because here in the social action you have to engage the masses, you have to developing the conscientization, developing the conscious efforts, consciousness among the masses. So for it is possible only once you have to develop a good relationship with the masses, with relationship with the client or the clientele. So the social worker should have skills for building support rapport with individuals and groups. The social worker should have the ability to identify the leadership qualities among the clientele, and should be skillful to harness these qualities for social action. So identifying or developing a good rapport with the general masses, and also identifying the leaders from the group and developing a good relationship and harness that leadership among the clienteles. That's a very important skill from you to be required. And he and she should be able to deal with the intra-group and intergroup conflicts effectively. That's also the aspect of the relationship. Once you have a good relationship within a group and with the other agencies or with other groups, then you will be able to make a good relationship and can be reducing the conflicts if you actually anticipate that is going to be happen, or if it is already existing conflict there. So you will also manage more effectively once you have a good relationship skills. The ability to actually diagnose the problematic behavior among the clients and providing counseling is needed to develop and maintain integration within the community. Sometimes while social action, some set of the community not may create some kind of the issues, and they're not going according to the needs and demands of that time. So that way, and in that situation you have to be good enough at the micro level interventional aspect. That is, you have to counsel that maybe the two and three people or one specific people who could create some kind of the controversy, some kind of the issues, or create some kind of the hindrance into the path of the social action. So you have to counsel them, bring them into the mainstream social action. Okay. So developing and maintaining cordial relationship with the other agencies and NGOs who's working around, or maybe who's working for the same cause. So or working in the same geographical location. So by taking into loop those organizations is so important, and again that's required your relationship skills. Moving ahead, next is about your analytical skills. Social worker can objectively assess and then address the complex social issues, and empowering the community to participate actively in the solution. So this could be possible only once your analytical skills is good. You have that ability to analyze the situation, analyze the causes and then factors, oppressors and all. So this analytical skills needs a good research skills of yours, right? So social workers should have the ability to objectively study the socio-cultural and then economic characteristic of the community. Means you have a good understanding how to develop the good profile of the community, resource assessment of the community and all. And he should be able to find out the actually pressing problems and needs of the clientele. So what are the actually problem and then issues there in that community, and should be able to analyze the social problems, the factors contributing to those social problems and its ramification on the social, economic and political, ideological, cultural, ecological aspects of life. So she should be able to conduct research. So that is what gives you the analytical aspect, and then good assessment of the problem, the cause, the factor, the resources, the client, the clientele, the oppressor, the oppressed. You will be able to actually formulate and plan a good social action movement or social action activities. So added to this, the social workers should be able to facilitate the community people to speak out their own felt needs and prioritize them. So uh, by analyzing all the situation, all the resources and oppressor and oppressed, you will be able to actually educate and develop the kind of consensus among the masses. It's all based on the kind of the analysis you have done with the correct analysis of the situation. Next is interventional skill. After having the relationship, then you analyze the whole or assess the whole situation or system or structure or the problem or the process. Now this is a time that what's required from your side is your interventional skill. A social worker should assist the community in developing a practical intervention strategies by presenting the various options, helping the and evaluate each choices, pros and cons, and guiding them towards effective action. So you have to be good enough to understand how and what kind of the strategy is required. Then you must have the different sets of the programs and planning, and then you can offer to the community, to the masses, that whichever options they actually opted for. And you also have all the information, all the explanation, the pros and cons of the each kind of the strategies that is planned to intervene for to resolving certain issues. Additionally, they may support social action methods like sit-ins or strikes, or by fostering the sense of urgency and then courage within the community to achieve meaningful change. So courage is so important for social action, and this courage comes from the motivation, comes from the after the analysis of the self-worth. When the community believing in their self-worth, motivated towards certain cause, developing a conscious togetherness. So this what they develop, this all develop the courage among the masses. Otherwise it happened that why should I do participate, this problem is not affected to me only. So there's a lot of apprehension in the community. So and this apprehension actually create a kind of hindrance into any social action path. And so this hindrance has to be removed, and develop the kind of the courage among the masses is important. So that is what the part of the interventional skills. Interventional skills is being required from you from starting to the end. Means every time you have that kind of the skills to intervene into, to facilitate the process at the time required. So social election may require confrontation with authorities like sit-ins, boycotts, strikes, etc. The social worker should be able to maintain the desirable level of feeling of discontent and emotional surcharge to bring about the necessary changes. Enthusiasm and courage among the community people has to be maintained throughout. So this courage and enthusiasm is so much important, and important ingredient and fuel for the movements and for the movement and for the social movement or for the social change. So this is a kind of so important skill required from you. Next is managerial skills. So program planning, program management, for even for the social action, needs a very well versed, very well planned kind of interventional or managerial skills from you, so that how you manage the things from start to the end. you know the social activist or the social worker should be able to coordinate with the and collaborate with various groups and local leaders to as to unite the clientele for the required intervention. So that is what to how to unite, how to organize a thing, and should be skillful enough to make policies and programs, program planning, program management, coordination, recording, budgeting, and elementary accounting and maintenance of various records that is being required for the social action. Who will be involved, who will not be involved, when to start, when the meeting has to be happened, all this thing, what kind of the how much amount is being required, what is the budget, from where the funds would come. So he and she should be able to actually maintain and mobilize the internal and external resources in terms of money, man, material, equipment, so on and so forth. So that is what the managerial skill is so important, right? The social worker also requires the skills of supervising humans and then material resources, and then effective utilization for the welfare and development of the target population. So overall management is required in everywhere, like in the planning, in the organizing, in the staffing. Here staffing, not formal staffing, here means that you have to given some kind of authorities and some responsibility to some, and then kind of activities that has to be performed. So in everywhere this managerial skill is the supreme skill, you could say. That once you have a good managerial skills, this means you have a good analytical skills, you must have good interpersonal skills, you have a good skill in rapport building, you're skillful enough to understand the things. So managerial skill is a very supreme skill that's required from you, because being a professional, you have to be organize the thing more productive way and more appropriate manner for a better outcome, for a better betterment for the masses in large. Next is communication skills. So definitely communication skills is so important. Human being are actually, they are being human being because of this communication, right? A social worker should build strong public relationship with the local organization, leadership and communities effectively, both in verbally and then written. So your writing skill or your verbal skill should be good enough, and sometimes your gestures is also very important parcel of your communication. Your gesture should be good enough, so that a good reflection has to be given to the masses. So they should be able to give impactful speeches, or identify people with people with whom you are actually working with. Additionally, there should be utilized suitable work, suitable folk, mass folk media, mass media, or engage different people in different situations. So you have to be good enough in creating slogans, writing the walls, so use selecting the songs, organizing some kind of the folk programs like the puppet shows and all, nukkad naktak, skill in education, and you have to be skillful enough within the communication skill, in facilitating skill, in educating skills, in negotiation, persuasion. So these all comes from the communication part. So one thing is the simple communication, that how you have to develop the rapport with the masses, with the NGOs, with the other organization, with the government agencies, and with whom you are working with, right? And for whom you are working with, and against whom you are working with. So you have a good communication skill, again in a written and verbal manner. You have a good understanding of mass media, how to use that. You have a good understanding of using the folk medias, or the like the folk songs, theaters, nukkad natak, skit. It's all kind of the IEC activities, that is information education communication activity. Even if you are good in SBCC, that the social behavioral change communication tools, that's wonderful. That, I mean, actually you have you consider to be a very great, I mean, good professionals in particularly pursue while pursuing these social action aspects, right? So communication skill, so that way it's so important. Next, the topic which we have to cover under the social action is about the strategies and tactics that the social action is been required by you, by the social activist, and when the whoever involved into, right? So what kind of the strategies and tactics that has to be used. So among that, Lees has identified three very important strategies of social action. One is the disruption, second is the collaboration, and then competition. So Lee sees to follow sequences that may be taken as meaning that one should begin from a collaboration approach, and may resort to the disruption strategies for the achievement of the desired objective. If the earlier strategies do not produce the desired result, so it could be disruption, it could be collaboration, it could be competition. So it started from the collaboration, so that is somehow more passive, then goes to the competition. If it has not been done by the collaboration, so it goes to the competition. So compete with maybe the opposition party, or compete with the parties which is holding the resources with whom you are actually fighting with. And this is more kind of the conflicting approach, little higher than the collaboration. And from competition to the disruption, it is much more higher degree of conflicting in nature. So disruption is of higher degree of where the opposition is so strong, and where you have to use some more strong strategies. Let's discuss one by one. So collaboration is what in this strategy, the social worker is collaborate with the local authority, agency, in order to bring a change in the existing social policy. So sometimes you need some kind of the collaboration from others to bring changes, because you alone, your agency alone, and few masses cannot bring changes. So you need some time the collaboration. So the basic assumption of this approach is lying in the homogeneity of values and interest through which substantive agreement or proposal is obtained. So you have to develop the collaboration only with those organizations with whom your ideas, your value system actually matches. Altogether you actually try to collaborate with those agencies, with those organizations which whose idea is totally against that. I mean, you are working for some environmental cause, and they are exploiting the environmental, they are definitely not coming to collaborate with you at first instance. But later on, once there's other tactics to make them into bring them into the loop, that's another through some kind of the pressure and all. But here we are concerned for the collaboration which is more peaceful means, right? Including education, persuasion, demonstration, and experimentation with the masses and with the opposing force. Next is about the competition. Competition is also called as through bargaining, negotiation, and advocacy. So in this strategy, the contending parties actually utilize commonly accepted campaign tactics to pursue, to negotiate and bargain with willingness to arrive at working agreement. So here in the competition with other parties, with the kind of the conscious effort, and with the good dialogue deliveries, with the kind of the negotiation and some kind of the bargaining, where maybe the win-win approach, a win-lose approach, that okay, I agree your point of view. If you want to open the industry here, you can open, but you have to open not very close to the farmers land or agricultural land. You can take some other distant areas, and you have to actually compensate for that. So that way, through some kind of the bargaining and negotiation and some advocacy of your behalf, you can actually come into some common consensus. So that is what competition is. So this technique is actually based on the premise that an anticipates some resistance to the changes. So definitely when in a competition, there's always some kind of the resistance would come from other side. So then again, this is the tactics, how much you are good enough in bringing bargaining and negotiating and advocacy on behalf of your own demands you can put in front of the others. That makes this strategy successful. But if the other party is so rigid, so disruption or confrontation is being required. This technique is based on the premises that in the struggle between those who are pro status quo and those who are pro change, right? Resistance is an aspect of the change effort, and therefore the dynamics of conflict are inherent in the social action effort. Here, it's more about the conflicting in nature. In this strategy, disruption signifies a more militant approach, and it may include strikes, boycott, fast, tax refusal, sit-ins, etc. So there are a lot of examples you can find around you, and in the political arena, in number of the environmentalists, they have to do this. So disruption is the last voice. If the another earlier two, that is the collaboration and competition, is not actually get its targeted objectives. Now coming to the next strategies given by the Hanstein. So this is about the individual change, techno-structural change. So individual change is what? That focuses on transforming the individual's attitudes, behaviors, skill to achieve the broader impact of the something that is desirable in the community. So individual change, once the individual within the community has changed to, and they change their outlook towards some issues and some cause of that is disrupting in the social system, you can brought the change into the overall society. So that is what individual change, and that individual could be in the masses, that is affected and disadvantaged individual. It could be any elite. Once they also got realized, so the things had to be easily removed, easily changed. Then techno-structural, so that is involves the altering the technological or structural elements within the organization or the community to foster changes. Like this could include implementation of new system, workflows or tools. So that is what the techno-structure. Sometimes some kind of the technological changes has been required to bring some kind of the changes. So maybe in some organization, some industry, some machines has been required to reduce the workload and reduce the kind of problem or the challenges which has been faced by the laborers. So through the, including inclusion of those new technology can resolve the issues that is been affected by the masses. Maybe it is expensive and it is like the master and then owner, they don't want to buy it to invest huge amount, but that is for the sake of the betterment of their employees. If he and she would actually realize, so this through this techno structural changes, the change would come into that whole structure or that system. Database is actually uses researches and data analysis and then evidences to identify the problem and justify the solution. That is what through some kind of the scientific or analytical way you can identify the issue and as well as the solution. Next is organizational development and cultural change. So that is what sometimes you need some kind of the structural change and then cultural change, so that through that change, the changes could be arise into the community. Maybe if you take the example of the cultural change, so that is about the sati pratha that has been brought change by the Raja Ram Mohan Roy. So that was through the individual change. That was through the techno-structural change, means that's through the legal enactment. That was based on some database. I mean, he was actually putting his words or advocating on behalf of those women through some database. I mean, it was not just in abstract statements, but it's totally based on some kind of a research. So then with the time the cultural has been changed. So because of some cultural changes, the things has been changed. Violence and coercion, if things in the passive manner has not been actually get its target, so sometimes violence and coercion is been required. So this violence and coercion uses actually forces to threat to compel changes, often seen as a last resort due to the ethical and legal implications. So usually if you go with the Gandhian ideology, you don't believe in much on the violence. There are another ways you can also bring changes into the society, but sometimes it happens that the problem from the other side, the other party is so big. I mean, they don't want this status quo. They don't want to actually, even they don't want a little flexibility in their status quo. So in that situation, some kind of the violent action has to be taken. That is the last word. But that violence should not be the kind of the bloodshed and something like that. It could be a kind of the boycott, should be kind of rallies or sit-in. On that way you can do that, right? So non-violent direct action, this is what is better than the violent or coercion. So this is employs peaceful methods like protest, protest, sit-ins or boycotts, or draw attentions to issues and advocate for change without actually resorting to the violence. Okay. Then accommodation, sometimes seeks accommodation or adjustment that allow different parties to achieve some of their goals without indulging into any kind of the conflicts. Then exposure, sometimes exposure is important. Exposure is what involving bringing attention to specific issues or injustice, often through media or public forums or public reports. So exposing some kind of the facts that is problematic and that actually you wanted to bring changes. So through media you can do that. The exposure is also one very important strategy, and that has to be go hand in hand to every other strategy as well. So living examples, you can put some live examples or some examples happen in the history or in some other part of the world. So by putting those, the kind of motivation would develop among the masses and they would participate. Even you can also put that example in front of those the elite groups or to the opponent parties, that okay, by bringing change in this way, the other parties which thought that they are going to lose something is not going to lose, even they are getting some benefit out of that. So that way you can put a lot of example in front of to the masses, as well as to the opposing parties with whom you are actually fighting with, or try to bring changes in the social structure and the social system. Then public support is also important, that is gathers community or public opinion or backing to a cause to build a momentum and legitimacy. When there is a public support or for any cause, this is actually put lot pressure, and things became more legitimate. Then presentation of proposals, I mean, so if you actually wanted to identify some kinds of issues and some causes to bring changes into some community, you have to develop a presentation more formal manner, and you can put in front of the policy makers, or to whom have the power to bring changes. So that is what very passive, very academic way of presenting or yourself and your issue or your concern. So this strategy is always is considered to be better than lobbying, is what where directly influencing policymakers or any legislators through formal advocacy to secure legislative or policy changes. So that is through lobbying you can do. And agitation and subversion is again is the kind of a little more violent things that you agitate, maybe sometime through some non-violent way you also agitate. So this is another the final again of high degree of strategy which you could follow to bring social changes. Now this all the pointers which is Hornstein has actually sum up into or the actually defined into the three approaches. I mean, these all the strategies he's sum up into three broader strategy. One is the direct action, another is non-cooperation, third is about the intervention. So direct action is what involves taking immediate, often confrontation steps to challenge or disrupt a system, so institution or any situation, right? It is characterized by active, visible, and sometimes disruptive methods of protest to resistance that don't rely on traditional political processes or intermediaries. So here it is mainly at the time of some immediate action has to be taken. That is what the direct action. So examples like picketing, one can go with the picketing. Then the marches. Picketing is what is a form of protest where individuals stand outside of some location, like in a business or governmental offices, to draw attention to some issues, often to discourse others from entering into participation in contested actions. You can also go with some kind of the banners there. So that is what the picketing, marches, and haunting, leafleting, distributing some kind of the pamphlets and all. And then fraternization means engaging actually with others, often from opposing groups, right? To build a solidarity or awareness which can help foster mutual understanding or challenge our prevailing norms. Next is about non-cooperation. Non-cooperation is a form of passive resistance, right? Where individuals or groups refuse to comply with certain laws, rules, system, or anything, or authority, or any figure. Rather than just confronting authorities directly, non-cooperation seeks to withhold participation or support, aiming to weaken the functioning of the system by withdrawing consent or participation. So that's you can do through the strikes, boycott, tax refusal, that through some non-violent way you actually put your voice in front of the any system or authority that you are not liking this. Interventional is what is to direct action again, that intend to disrupt or obstruct a particular event or process or system from its functioning, to disrupting in the smooth functioning. Unlike direct action, intervention is more specifically aimed at obstructing or interfering with the status quo, often in a way that cause a temporary interruption or change in the normal course of events. So that is what intervention. You don't allow some function, something has to be happened. So that is what you can do with the sit-in, that you just come together and sit in one place. So that is what the sit-in. Reversal strike, obstruction. So you create some kind of the obstruction that you don't allow something which you actually believe that it is not acceptable. So that is what an intervention. So direct action is what, it's more volatile, it's more actually directly challenging or disrupt the system. It's an immediate action or often confrontation steps, right? Non-cooperation is non-violent. Usually, once you resistant when individuals or groups refuse to comply with some kind of the laws. So that is what intervention that you don't like, but you actually particular activity you put to an end. You actually put some kind of the obstruction so that things should not work smoothly, right? So just moving ahead. Another approach which has been given by Surinder Singh is known as the administrative approach. So this adds another, this he mentioned the most often than not, the establishment viewed any struggle or effort towards drastic or radical change as the law and order problem. Therefore, an administrative approach or strategy is adapted to deal with the situation. It includes persuasion, bargaining, pressure, coercion, infiltration, concession, co-option, and splitting, etc. So it may be noted that the perception of this situation by the leader or decision makers and their experience counts much more in selecting this strategy. To exemplify or to give some examples, in the backward classes or the peasant movements, strategies like withdrawal, self-organization, conversion, combining of caste with class, mobilization, division of labor, attacking the monopoly of reference groups by the deprived use of secular and religious themes, but participation in an or not participating in any kind of the election, democratic political and political pressures they have to put, emulation, propaganda, mass appeal, articulation, deprivation, sensitization, protest, demonstration. All these have been used in this the method of administrative approach, when actually most often than not, means many a time you do that. Now coming to the Gandhian strategy for social action, which has been considered as most acceptable from the Indian perspective. So this characteristic of Gandhian social action shares striking similarities with the ethics, values and philosophy of professional social work. Here it's more concerned about the human rights, concerned about the social justice and all, concerned about the non-violence means of action. So if you look into the Gandhian strategies, it's been divided into three types: non-violent protest and persuasion, non-cooperation and non-violent intervention. Okay, just discuss one by one. So common methods used in Gandhian social actions are the parades, vigils, posters making, teachings, morning, protest, meeting, etc. So these methods are peaceful demonstration of decision, discontent and dissatisfaction. In Gandhian approach, workers are guided by certain factors in the selection of methods and strategies they adapt for social action. Parades, we all know that public organized events where people march together, often celebrating or commemorating the cause or event.